makeup, the hair. It just seemed like just kind of a little bit too into herself and not really revealing her true side and who she is. First seeing you, my impression of you wasn't, I got to get to know her. It was really like, whoa, should I check myself before I go talk to her? Even like that you couldn't see nobody else, and that's how I felt. That makes sense?
Yes. I mean, it makes sense because everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Right.
You saw a confident woman, you saw a beautiful woman, but you weren't attracted to her because she's too confident and she gives off the persona of she's the queen.
No, that's not what it is.
That was very offensive.
It's hard to let a woman know what you're really truly thinking.
I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor because I worked my ass off for 10 years in school. And I'm not going to stop being who I am for no man. When God wants the right person to come, he'll come. And he'll appreciate me for who I am.
No man goes out looking for specifically a woman that can wear the pants. There's not a lot of men that are just thinking, man, I want a woman that can just take control of everything. I want a woman that's intimidating to talk to, that's more masculine than me, So I was thinking about this subject when talking about the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry thing, because now that they're in California, he almost seems like he's on the verge of being neutered completely. And I wanted to talk about this because when men get put in these situations, or they put themselves in these situations, and, they would be called beta, but really they're just not as masculine as, the roles of feminine and masculine have been so flip-flopped and convoluted in our society nowadays that we're having a lot of issues all around. But yeah, of course, that's the case. There's some that just aren't as masculine in general, for whatever reason. That's not always a terrible thing, but in general, and when I speak about this, I'm talking about in general for the larger variety of people, women and men. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be outliers like, oh, well, this relationship, I work, my husband stays home, and this has always worked for us. Okay, that's great. I'm talking about generally, okay? So I don't want to upset anyone because I know it's like a sore spot, especially for women that are looking for a man and they're of a certain age and, they've got little time left and whatnot, and they want to have kids and they want all these things. It's a sore spot, of course, because they've grown up in a society that has lied to them, telling them that we're all equal and that you've got to go out and you got to show up these men and you got to develop this personality that comes with it. And I also want to put out there, that's not necessarily the case. Like, there's a lot of women that have been independent and made sure they can provide for themselves and whatnot. And I'm not saying, like, the providing thing is not what I'm really talking about. I'm talking about the femininity, like actually having a feminine personality, feminine characteristics, which one of those is being submissive, believe it or not. And I know a lot of people see that as like you're being walked on, or, you're being, that's not, I don't know why this is, like, nature has told us how to treat these things for so long, and now all of a sudden we think we can just figure out further and beyond this and, like, turn everything upside down and take on these roles that weren't natural to us. And okay, I want to tell a story. As a matter of fact, this is so ironic. The other day when I was at the creek, when I filmed this footage here, I saw this guy that I'm going to tell you a story about, and I'm going to make up names because if anyone I know watches my videos, they'll know who I'm talking about because this was a big deal in our town. So I'm going to call him Dean, and I'm going to call her Becky. And they have been together for decades, since they were teenagers, and they're older now, so a very, very long time. And all of these years, she has been a very strong masculine role. She's not very submissive, not the feminine characteristics we're talking about. She has worked full time. She's been very competent. She's been very I don't know, I don't know the ins and outs of their relationship, but I'm just telling you, like, her personality is a strong one. And he definitely wasn't going to take any control over that relationship, basically. So what I'm telling you is what happens after years and years of being controlled as a man. After being the one who's having to submit to some extent, because no relationship is ever going to be equal, as much as you want to believe that. And you can try to make things equal in a sense, like, the duties are all being taken care of, the bills, things like that, depending on who's making the money and, what chores are being done. You can try to make those sorts of things equal. But as far as our roles, our personalities and whatnot, the man usually needs to be the head of the household. He needs to feel like he has control. Okay? So, they got in this huge blowout, okay? They were fighting. I'm pretty sure there were drugs or alcohol involved. I don't know that for certain. And she ends up calling the police because he has a gun. I don't know if he was waving it. He didn't really take accountability or admit to any of this to me. About the only thing he actually told me verbatim was that she was going on and on and on. And he looks at her and says, "GD, Becky, if you don't sit your ass down and listen to me for the first time in your effing life, I swear." And it hit me. It hit me. This was all, I was doing a video right at this time about the Meghan Markle stuff. And I realized he has never, ever had control. He has never been able to tell this woman, look, this is what you need to do, and her respect him and take his advice. Or, you know what I'm saying? So, she's never submitted to him. I don't know what else she doesn't do. I don't know. I'm not saying this is her fault. Do not get me wrong. There were drugs involved. There were, the coronavirus stuff. This was a few months back. So, they were all home and cooped up and annoyed. And so there were a lot of other factors. And he still didn't take responsibility or accountability for anything that he did. Now, the police were called. It was literally treated as a hostage situation. They sat outside of his house all night. He went to sleep, he said. He didn't even know they were out there, like, waiting. And the next day, they got him to come out. And, they had a whole SWAT team. They put him down on the pavement. And it was this whole deal. And he got charged with all these charges and spent months in jail. And actually should have spent longer due to the charges and whatnot. But he got out of a lot of it. So, I say all this because, we always wonder when we look at these stories of people that just snap. Like these men that just snap one day. It's like, oh, well, what was ever wrong? Everything seemed fine. Really, it wasn't. It was brewing for a really long time. These men, instead of getting depressed, they just, I don't know if they're suppressing it or what, but they don't feel like they have any control. They don't feel like, they don't know what to do with this. They're told that their masculinity is toxic even, and they get a sense of purpose by providing and being that leadership role. I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. But I do try to serve my husband, when he gets home. He gets a hot meal. He doesn't have to go and fix his own plate even. I do things. I wash all his clothes. I do all the cleaning because he's usually gone anyway. So I'm here and that's my job. Now, if he is here and things need to be done and he's just available, then sure, that's fine too. We work these things out. And I haven't always stayed home either. I used to work. I was in the military. I worked even after we had our daughter. So those, you just have to work out how that's going to work in your relationships, when both parties are working. I just wanted to talk about this because what I'm seeing around me, like the woman you saw at the beginning of the video, she was told by society you have to be so strong and you have to be a leader, and this is what, you know, to be equal to a man, and then you're going to have this title at the end of it, and that's not even what men care about. They don't care about that. You know, it's great, it's a bonus, but that's not the first thing they're looking for in a mate, and, you know, a mother and a wife. These women have been lied to. You know, they've spent their entire life working towards something that isn't going to really benefit them in terms of finding a family. And they're pissed about it. Of course they are. Of course. And that they're lying to themselves like, oh, well, a good enough man will come along. No, like, you've passed. It's like the story about the man on the boat, you know, and that's what I see in the dating pool. These women are passing up so many good men, but they're never good enough. They're never good enough because, you know. So, yeah, the man on the boat goes out on the boat and he's praying to God, please, God, send me help. And a boat comes by and says, here, we're here to help you. No, I'm waiting on God. That passes by. Another one comes. Nope, I'm waiting on God to save me. Nope. The next one comes, waiting on God. See, you know, so it's like you've got to, at some point, be humble and appreciative. So men, like the general population, I'm not speaking for all men here, they're trying to tell these women what it is they want. They want femininity. And it's either offensive or, you know, these men are just trash. They're tossed to the side. And so these women end up going for the betas because these are the men that will comply with the way they want to do things. And then they become like, they end up snapping one day. They pretend like they're with all this to play along and get along, and they may be trying to convince themselves as well, but eventually they realize, no, this is not cool. And the women aren't happy either. It's not just the men that are unfulfilled because of these lies that we're telling ourselves. The women are not happy in these relationships. They've been controlling things all of this time, and they want someone that's strong too. It's like just another way, it seems like to me, with this modern culture, to weed out the genetics of certain people that just don't get it. You know, they're trying so hard to go against nature. And a lot of these people want families. They want children. But they're just stepping outside of the framework just enough to make that never be possible. And our roles are very important. They're set up this way because when you do have children grow up and thrive best in these settings where they have, you know, one nurturing parent that's loving and, you know, all of these soft, feminine things. And there's the revered masculine role, you know, the sturdy, stable, in control leader. And it doesn't mean, you know, this is where they get a lot of their discipline and whatnot. And they can get that from both parents, you know. But this doesn't, that's what I'm saying. This doesn't mean that dad can't be loving and nurturing when he needs to be. This doesn't mean mother can't be, you know, a hard disciplinarian when she needs to be. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like the large majority of these features are coming from these different roles. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to tell that quick story and talk about what happens, you know, while we're watching men blow up 20, 30 years down the road.